Hello, and good morning. Oh, yes, it is our favorite time of the week, Wednesday. A little bit of the 10 o'clock hour there, and we are ready for, yes, another fabulous installation of Small Biz Talk with your host, Lori Williams. But if this is your first time joining us, hello, my name is Sadie Uribe. I'm the media producer for the Los Angeles Regional SBDC. The SBDC is a national program with over 1,000 locations across the country, helping to stimulate economic growth through business advising and development. The LASBDC offers no-cost services through funding provided by the U.S. Small Business Administration, SBA, and from the California Office of the Small Business Advocate. It's your tax dollars at work. The Los Angeles Regional SBDC network operates 7 service locations throughout Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. Our services are also offered virtually. We are here to help. We empower small business owners by offering tailored solutions through personalized one-on-one business advising, cutting-edge workshops, and comprehensive programs, all provided at no cost. We are dedicated to supporting your entrepreneurial journey every step of the way. Lori, did you like that intro? I wanted to feel like a news anchor or something at this point. I'm like, is this a news program? I'm like, what's like oh, no, it's like a daytime talk show. We're getting ready with our coffee mugs. What are we doing today?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was wonderful. Actually, you already have been because you've been the weather person too before, Sadie. You commented on the weather. So yeah. And I'm playing in the chat. I just said hello to Brenda. I'm like, okay, I better pay attention. I'm like the host and I'm playing in the chat right now.
We're having fun, Lori. That's our goal, right?
Yeah, we are. We're having absolute fun. So, you know what? I don't even have this presentation I'm supposed to give today. So hold on. It just disappeared when I was playing in the chat. That's what I get for having too much fun. So I'm going to give you guys a preview to Lori's Corner. We're going to start. You know my usual rant and rave on everything. So today we're actually going to talk about government stuff. So I'm getting you ready for that. And Sadie's going to put the link in the chat. I'm telling you that already because then if you guys want to know it, you're like, where is it? So I'm telling you it's already there. So with no further ado, let's get started with today's show because it's going to be another fun one. Here we go, guys. So first of all, I was telling Sadie, I was like that next month, I can't believe we're already almost into it. So we got 2 weeks left of this month. David, who I said has been on the show a couple times before, longtime entrepreneur, excited to have him come on, talk about, how kind of, I hate to say this, but when you start a company, you don't get to a certain point, you sit back and go, okay, it's all good now. Especially with the way things change. Business models can get stressed over time period and you got to change on a dime. So I've asked David to come on and kind of talk about that and how you have to stay on top of what's happening and be prepared to not just pivot, as they say, but it may require making major internal decisions and changes that aren't always comfortable. The week after that, Kevin, new guest coming on, All in One Solar. Very excited to have him on. Fascinating story. Started the company some time ago, has a lot of experience to share. So that's the remaining August. And of course, I'll be letting you know who's coming on in September. Okay. So, I wanted to get some government stuff. You like that title? Government stuff. I had one of them in my back pocket, so to speak, and I got caught up in the other things I wanted to rant about. But I thought, you know what? I want to get these 2 things out to you. One of them just happened today. One of them I learned about a little bit ago. So these are situations that may apply to you. One of them might be interesting to know. So the first thing I want to talk about is an announcement from IRS. It's called it's new and it's a program. It's abbreviated AEP, but it's the automatic exemption from penalty. And you know what? I talk to you guys a lot. Some of you got these little penalties. So that's why I wanted to bring it up. So here's just generally how it works. And Sadie put the link over there in the chat so you have it. But if you have a solid history of filing and paying on time for the previous 3 years or 12 consecutive quarters for quarterly returns, the IRS, it's a new thing through the administration, the IRS can now automatically waive certain penalties. Failure to file, failure to pay, and failure to deposit without having to call and request it. Now, this is the important thing to understand. And I remember when I went through my EA training, enrolled agent, I was kind of surprised to know this because I hadn't known this, that you have higher penalties on failure to file than failure to pay. So a lot of people afraid to, I'm not going to be able to afford it, et cetera. I don't have the money. They don't file. And I always say file because that penalty is the worst and it eliminates the statute of limitations. So the fact that they are going to wipe out these penalties on all, for the deposit, the failure to file, the failure to pay, it's kind of big for some of you guys. So this applies to eligible original returns starting with, there is a tax year, okay? Starting with tax year 25 and 26 quarterly returns. You still have to pay any tax and interest on, but if you qualify, the IRS will simply not assess those penalties and will send you a notice. So if that could be you, full details, check out the link. And of course, if you have any questions, Sadie always says how to get in touch with me. You can always schedule a point with me. Now, here is some big news to me. Okay, it's big news. Some of you might recall, these words may ring a bell. It was through FinCEN, and it was that beneficial ownership reporting. Now, if you remember it, you remember something like this. It's back on, it's back off, it's back on, it's back off. That was through the previous years, right? And what happened is when it was first installed during Biden era, it was questioned by the courts on several situations. So the on off was really because of courts would say it's in question, so then it could not be mandated. Then it would go through this next court. Then it would be, that's where the off on came, right? So even though some of you might be saying, no, you don't have to do it. You didn't, but it was not an official court decision. It was still pending. So it was stalled, or whatever word you want to use, because it was in courts. Well, this week, it's done. It's dead. It's dead. And I got some other good news for any of you who did report that don't want your information there. So here we go. This week, the U.S. Treasury finalized a rule that permanently ends the requirement for U.S. companies and U.S. persons to report beneficial ownership information to FinCEN under the Corporate Transparency Act. Here's plain English. The vast majority of small businesses in the United States no longer have to file those BOI reports. Certain companies have to. If you're involved in finance, you do, and other different requirements if you're a certain size, SEC, type companies. But this reached down into the single sole prop that was never required. So that's what made this really unique. So now, no, don't have to. So this is the best one. I love this one. FinCEN has confirmed it will delete previously submitted information about U.S. persons from the database. So if you already filed, that information is scheduled to be removed. Why do I care so much about it? I waited. Then the deadline was there. I friggin' did it a day before, and then it got on hold, and I was so mad at myself. So I'm deleted from the database, and I'm happy to know that, right? So this is a meaningful reduction in reporting burden for small business owners. Bottom line, stay current on your tax filings so you can take advantage of the automatic penalty relief when it applies, and know that beneficial ownership reporting requirement for most of you is now gone. Okay, that's my government stuff for today. You got this. Keep your records clean. Focus on running your business. Okay, let's jump into today's show. I'm so excited to have Adam back. Adam Chapnick is an advisor at the Pasadena SBDC. Shout out to the Pasadena SBDC. He is also the general partner at Chapnick Group, where he mentors early stage startup founders through their journeys from concept to customer. He teaches pitching using his Wow How framework in workshops across the country, and has become affectionately known by founders and investors as the Pitchinator. Okay, Adam's got an interesting background. He was a principal at the crowdfunding platform Indiegogo. Got to be a certain age to know that. Founder of the film distribution aggregator Distribber, and host of Security Token Academy. He is committed to democratizing access to capital and helping creative entrepreneurs share their visions with the world they serve. Adam, welcome to the show.
All right, I'm on the couch.
You are on the couch,
I
the
made
Oprah
it.
couch. And you wore the attire. You got the memo. Don't we
Yes.
look? Yeah, we got it happening today. Adam, it's always exciting to have you on the show. There's certain people that are just a lot of fun. And, I don't even have to try to have fun. I just have fun saying hello. And you're one of them. So
Hello.
this is what we're going to do. I mentioned this right before the show. I said, Adam, we're going to do something a little bit differently because we always come on and go, Adam, what are you doing? You're mentoring. What are you finding? And believe me, I'm going to bother you with those questions too because I'm always curious what your experiences are. But we're going to start out with who is Adam? Who's Adam the entrepreneur? What have you been doing with your life, dude?
Wow. Wow. Does anyone really want to know that? Does anyone care?
I
I
decided they do because you actually have an interesting background. You really do, especially to people like me that are old. I'm older than you, and
I
remember
don't
that
know if you're older than me.
I
I
think I
don't
am.
know.
I think I
Okay.
am.
I mean, you
Yeah,
don't look it.
probably a bit. I bet
If
you. Do you want to
if
say
we're
your age?
measured, I'll be 58 in
I'm 62. You're older
you
than I
are.
thought you
Oh,
were.
wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're okay, bud. We're in the same group. No
I
wonder we
thought,
both know Indiegogo.
yeah, you have an excellent skincare regime.
Yeah, and what's really funny about it is we won't go into there, but I moved some years ago to making it out of my kitchen.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, literally, I learned how to
They're
make
like
my own
beeswax and aloe vera or whatever. I don't know what I'm talking about.
brown sugar.
Oh, is that
Oh
the
my
key?
God, brown sugar
Hold on.
scrub
I'm
in the
writing this
morning.
down. Hold on.
Yeah, yeah. And then I have this, what I call my Rescue Max at night. I got like this big thing with all these little bottles and oils and stuff. Yeah, I really have gone full into
All right.
looking. I look like grandma's house with the ball jars.
Right.
Yeah,
Except for you also have the power tools and the
well, yeah, yeah,
table
yeah.
saws, right?
Grandma didn't have miter saws and
Yeah.
band saws and
Yeah. You're amazing.
jigsaws and table saws. Do you think I got enough saws?
Does everybody know that about you? That you are
They're
like
starting to.
a
Yeah, there's
wizard of like
construction.
self-contained construction?
Yeah, self-contained construction. And so far, nothing has fallen apart and fell on my head, including the stairs that I've now used for a year and a half. And every time when I first walked on them, I'm like, okay, stairs are still intact. This is a good thing. Let's keep going. I had somebody come over that was a little bit heavy and walking the stairs. And I'm like,
Oh boy.
oh, okay, they're still up.
Yeah. Impressive. As you know, I had to run and get coffee just so I could keep my mental acuity at the level of yours for a full hour. It's like
I don't know about
take
that. Like I said, I've
take
decided
drugs.
I've just become delusionally insane, but after like my entire life. So I just know how to act really well. But we're going into Adam's world. So
All
Adam,
right.
you're in high school. What's your plans?
So what's that?
You were in high school. What was
I
your
was in
plans
high
in high
school. We want
school?
to go there. Okay. Well, I'll tell
I
you
just
one
want
thing.
to know what were you thinking your
Here's what
life was
I'll
going to be?
here's what I will share from your question, based on the fact that we both deal with um, hundreds of entrepreneurs a month, right? And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I'll answer in the context of things that might be interesting or
please
useful
do.
to the
Yeah.
entrepreneur. The one thing I'm the most proud of about my journey from high school to 58 is that it is freaking crazy. It is absolutely unpredictable. There's literally not one piece of it that I could have said I would be doing. All of
Yeah.
it was opportunistic and providential and all that kind of stuff. And so you were talking about someone another guest is coming next week, I think, about the difficulties of making internal pivots that are uncomfortable but
Yeah.
necessary, things like that. So the entrepreneurial life is one of seizing opportunities and jumping when you're pushed from behind, whether you like it or not. It's sort of like grabbing what you want and getting pushed for what you don't want. And
Yeah.
so in high school, I was like, I thought I was gonna be an artist. I was like, which I am an art. I do a ton of art, but I was like, I'm gonna be an actor. I'm gonna be a musician. I'm gonna do these things and whatever. And so I actually pursued that for a few years after college. And when I got into it, I enjoyed the art part, but the business part was something you don't really learn when you're like studying art or you're studying acting or whatever you may be studying as in high school or college and the arts, right? It's very short on the realities of life as the artist. It's long on doing the art. So you get thrown in. If you're serious, you're really trying to do it, you quickly get punched in the face by reality of the
Yeah.
business. And so
Yeah.
in my case, I was pursuing acting and I had some success. I was in off-Broadway shows in New York. I moved to LA to do some TV, and I did some commercials, like, but super small, stupid crap. And I remember just like the life was so punishing and was so lacking in any agency. You couldn't. It was all, you were all at the behest of someone choosing you, and you were always like, please, please
Yeah.
choose me.
Yeah.
And your life was really just going around town trying to find work. And I quickly was like, okay, as much as I like the idea of acting, that is not a life that I choose. And it was like within months. It wasn't like I tried it for 10 years. I was like, this is the worst thing I'd ever heard. And it was crushing in a way because I'd
Yeah.
spent literally years expecting it to be wonderful. And I actually accomplished the little milestones you kind of think are impossible. Like I got an agent and I got a commercial and I got, the work. And when I was on the set, even I was like, this is the worst fucking thing I've ever done in my, this is horrible, the worst. And so I was like, okay, what am I going to do? And this is one of those times, it's sort of like a mixture of getting kicked in the ass and grabbing from the front. I was like, okay, I like this world. I like movies. I like TV. And I studied dramaturgy actually in after college a little bit in New York. And so I was like, I like writing and stuff. So I was like, I'm going to see about maybe working at an agency and maybe learning about the screenwriting thing instead of the acting thing. And so I literally just hustled up, and this is so before anybody's time except ours, but I was like on the AOL chat like thing, like where I messaged, yeah, like and I tried, and I just like cold messaged agencies through AOL, which wasn't even email yet. It was just like this like IRC, if you remember that.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
So like, and so sure enough, there was few enough people doing that I got some response and got some interviews, and I ended up working at an agency. And so I won't go through the entire like blow by blow of all this, but ended up working at an agency in talent and literary agency. And I was like, okay, I get how the talent side works, but it was really also even the agents, I'm working my way up the chain in this world from, the grunt actor who has no power to the agent who has some power over the actor, but no power over anything else. They're also begging, but they're just begging in a little bit of a more scale. Like, here's a whole bunch of people. Will you please hire them and I'll take a piece?
Yeah.
But I didn't like that either. So I went in the literary part, and it was like a little bit bigger money more regularly that you could take a piece of, but that had its own structural problem. So I quit the agency and started a management firm because I was like, okay, managers in California can represent and charge a little bit more as a percentage, can't negotiate, but can produce. So I started producing, as in name, on some of the films that I was representing. Now, remember, in high school, this is only a few years earlier, like 5 years earlier. If someone was like, are you going to be a literary manager? I wouldn't have even known that was. I didn't even know anything, right? But you follow your nose and you notice what works and doesn't work. And so the management company turned into a production company, did a little of that. That ended up in the late 90s. I noticed, those of us who are of an age, there was a watershed year in 1998, I think it was, where Y Tu Mama Tambien and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and Amelie and Amores Perros, all foreign films that did crazy numbers at the US box office. And everyone had said, Americans hate foreign films. They won't read subtitles. They're too stupid and too self-centered. But it was like a big thing. And I thought, there was all these independent cable TV stations. There was Comedy Central was independent. The Tennis Channel was independent. The Romance Channel was independently owned by some guy, right? Each one. And I was like, there should be a foreign film channel. Everybody's into foreign films. Why don't we do that? So I started a thing called the Film Cafe, which was going to be the foreign film channel. And I started literally calling film companies in like Milan, in Moscow, who did not really even speak English. And I had to like hustle and fax my way into getting rights for US TV for foreign films. And I just went through the Academy Award list of the last 50 years and called around to see, and I got almost all of them for free because they were all like, "No, we can't do anything in the U.S. If you want to make, just take them. If they can be on TV, good for you." So I was like, again, in high school, if you told me you're going to start a cable network, like, are you kidding? I'm a freaking artist. Like, no, that's not going to happen. But I found some through a friend and a person and a contact, and I got in touch with the person who was the president of distribution at TNT. And she said, yeah, if you start this, I'll do it for you. If you can raise the money, and here's what it would cost. I was like, great. So I was raising money. It was starting to go. And then there was a horrible business situation where I won't go through the minutia, but basically a couple of the giant players, Comcast and AT&T Broadband, merged, which made it impossible for any independent cable station to be privately owned by just some guy. They just rolled up everything, and so they started saying, if you want carriage on Comcast or on AT&T, these cable ISPs, you had to give them half the company to start negotiating. And I was like, okay, there's no way that makes sense to start. And so I was like, okay, that doesn't work. But here comes another kick in the ass. I was like, I have all these rights. I have all these rights to these foreign films. What do I do? I guess I'm going to put them on DVD, right? I don't know how to do that. Who does that? I'm like, how do people distribute DVDs, right? This is 2004, let's say now. And so lo and behold, I had a foreign film distribution company. And so that people heard, oh, you do weird little films? How about this documentary? And I was like, I love documentaries. Let's do documentaries. So it was now, again, in high school, if you had said, hey, in X years, you're going to be a foreign film and documentary DVD producer. And then I also started putting them in theaters. And I was like, okay, I'm a film distribution executive. I had no idea how to do any of this. Figured it out, but not out of the blue, right? Each thing was like a vine that swung in front of me from the last one. And I just grabbed it and I just kept grabbing it, right? So it's not like anybody on the call is like, I'm telling you, you should look into film distribution. Like, of course not. You should do what you want to do, right? Try it, but hold it lightly and understand that you're going to get kicked in the ass. Now, sometimes when you get kicked in the ass, you just resist and you're like, I'm staying on the ledge. I'm kicking as hard as I can. I'm staying. But a lot of times it's an invitation to a next evolution, an evolutionary step, right? So anyhow, so I have this distribution company, then Apple iTunes opens up for music, transforms the whole music distribution landscape. Everybody's got everything on their phone, and they're about to announce that they're going to do on the iTunes store at the time, now called Apple Music, but iTunes store was merged. They launched video, or they were going to launch video. And I was like, wow, well, oh my God, there's this company called TuneCore, which I don't know if anybody on the call knows them, but they revolutionized music distribution by being what's called an aggregator. They intermediate or sort of disintermediated intermediate, but they became the sort of distributor of choice for independent musicians because they could just upload their music to TuneCore for $10 a song, and TuneCore would send it to iTunes or to Pandora or Spotify. And so now suddenly nobody needed labels, and it changed the economics of the film business as best as it could in a post-Napster era. But what I thought to myself was, okay, wait a second. If that just happened, and TuneCore had just raised $50 million to expand, I forget, iTunes was about to release video. And here I was as a video distributor now, right? And I was like, wow, well, someone should do TuneCore for video. And I was like, you know what? I think I know the guy who started TuneCore. And I happen to know him through college and stuff. And so I called him and I was like, hey. And I said what I just said to you, video. And he's like, oh, forget it. There's too many rights. It's too complicated. The file's too big. It's pain in the ass. Awful. I was like, well, what if I did it? And I just was the front end and I just plugged into your system. Nobody has to know it's you. You could just be my back end. He's like, fine, do it. Whatever you want. I don't want to have anything to do with it. You deal with all the problems and we'll just put it on the rails. So I was like, okay. So I started this thing called Distribber, which was really just a front end of TuneCore. And then suddenly, here I am, a digital film aggregator Like I didn't know any of those words even, 5 years before.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that blew up. I met the Indiegogo founders, and they were struggling, and we were all kind of we merged, and then I became a principal at Indiegogo, and we all were like, okay, let's do a way. Indiegogo, for anyone who doesn't know, is a way to democratize access to fundraising. It's crowdfunding, but for rewards, not for equity. So it's not investing; it's just rewards-based crowdfunding. And so that was the way. The idea was Distribber was taking off. Indiegogo was kind of foundering. They were like, this guy, and I'm sort of bragging in this point, but this is just true. They were all corporate consultants, the three of them. And I came, as we know, from an acting background. Right? So you can tell, like, look at me. I'm like, that's what I am. I just talk loudly and animated, right? So I'm good in the front. They're terrible. They were horrible at explaining what they did. And so I was great with the filmmakers, and we thought, oh, let's do a way to raise money for films, Indiegogo, and they can spend the money in the Distribber. And so now it's a full, like, vertical integrated stack for people who want to make movies. Raise the money build an audience, spend the money, get the distribution, and you've got a whole distribution ecosystem. So we started that way. It exploded. Everybody was like, have you heard about Indiegogo and Kickstarter? And they were like, oh, well, can you do that for this other thing I'm doing, like this invention I have? Yes. Can you do it for this music I do? Yes. Can you do it for this business? Yes. So Indiegogo opened to 28 verticals in the first 11 months that I was there. And because again, here's me, la, 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 la. They're like, somebody has to figure out how to make the case for Indiegogo. Indiegogo, when you got there, was Indiegogo. It was always the same thing, right? Had a terrible name, which they didn't think it was bad. I was like, nobody knows what it is. Sounds like a strip club. But, right? Indiegogo, right?
I didn't what it was, too.
Right?
I was like, what the world does this mean? I was like, it has nothing to do with fundraising.
Yeah. The first meeting I had with the co-founders, the four of us, and we were in our apartments making no money. I was like, okay, guys, so what do you want to do about the name? And they were like, what do you mean? And I was like, because I had Distribber. Everybody got Distribber. That makes no sense. Distribber was taken from Variety magazine, what Variety magazine calls distributors. They call them this Distribber just fired two people. I was like, what a cool name, Distribber, right? Yeah. Hey. And so I was like, what are we doing about the name? And they were like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, the name. Nobody knows what it is. That makes no sense. They were like, oh, I don't think you should be telling us about the name, Mr. Distribber. I was like, oh no. This is good. This isn't going to go on. Anyway, so we had to keep the name, but I had to come up with 28 different pitches that had different emphases and ways of discussing why using this platform that's always the same for all 28 people is great for nonprofits, or why this is great for musicians, totally different reasons, or why this is great for films, also different reasons. What you can do with this for entrepreneurship, also different reasons, right? And that was my feet in the like it threw me in the fire. And even though I like talking about stuff like this, what I discovered, and again, I was just an artist, right? I never knew I was good at pitching. I didn't even know what pitching is. Like, I didn't know what that is. But what I realized is if you throw me out in front of a bunch of people and I have to think on my feet and I'm terrified, I'm like, say to them what this thing is and why it's good. I had a knack for understanding who I was talking to, what they would positively respond to, what their needs were and what they were trying to achieve, and how I could connect what I knew about this feature set so that I could convey it as benefits to their particular problem set. And I was like, wow, 28 different verticals. And so I just got so fluent in that process that it became a specialty. Now, it became a specialty while I worked at Indiegogo for 5 years, but then when I quit, I ended up pretty quickly doing what we do now. And I just help entrepreneurs do all this stuff. And that's why, is because I bumbled my way through an entrepreneurial life to understand how to maximize your natural gifts, but also be brave and, like what you were describing about internally pivoting and sort of like personal level. Trying stuff and figuring it out.
I love that story. I love that you told it. I have this like really brilliant statement, and I don't know if I can even get it out. So work with me on my brilliant statement, Adam.
Let's do
Okay.
it.
Okay. So it's got so many dangling thoughts that I'm trying to tie them down and make some sense out of it. When you first started speaking about that, kind of finding your way, and once I knew that our age was very similar, I know that from my own experience of, let me just call it societal conditioning at that time, not so much now, but you were supposed to have it all figured out by the time you were 20 down to right before your death. I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this. That's where the married and the two-car garage and the picket fence came from. And I remember being so fearful and trying to get that verbal out. In the meantime, the little Lori spirit was, hell no, I'm going to play with anything that comes my way. And this was always this fight. And like you wanted to do something that didn't involve the begging, I, on the other hand, came from rural. I wanted to do something that didn't involve labor. And my whole goal was get into something that doesn't involve picking beans and tying cauliflower. I was really a labor person, right? And I just was like, I don't want to do that. I want to get paid for what I know. Nobody in my world did, right? Now, my point is that I did the same thing where I was always fighting with this, Lori, honey, just get a job and get benefits. And well, no, but this interests me. And then this interests me. And then this interests me. And so I lived a life where people always say to me, how are you so smart? And I say, because I got involved in so many things over my life. I'm old one, but I've had all these experiences. And what I did is I decided to start the company because then I could be all over and look cohesive to society because I was always under the company name. But in the meantime, I'm off doing this gig, then I'm off here, I'm consulting with this company. So I was trying to have this like front face of being like consistent and following society's rules while letting my little spirit play like crazy. Okay, now we got that. I'm going to keep going. So then what ended up happening is I got to a point where I said, when people look at me, they look at it like I got it so together and I always knew what I was doing because it all filled in the blanks and made sense, just like with you. You actually always have been creative. You're still using your creativity. I'm always using what I had too. And suddenly my front looked like it had been like this perfectly planned thing, but it had not. Okay, here's where I'm going to make a mental pivot, Adam. When we were back at that time period, I think a lot of it too, and it happens to youth no matter what era we're in, holding on tightly to this well told story for the next 30 years underscores the fear you have of not knowing what's going to happen next. Okay. Well, when you live the way you do, some of the things I loved, you have an invitation to the next. You have fun, you're alive, you're excited, all these things come up. Adam, here's the mental pivot. I'm hearing young entrepreneurs do the social conditioning like we did as kids. And this is the conversation I have. Because remember, I'm talking legal structures, right? And
Mhm.
so, okay, so this is part of why I hear it. So they're like,
Yeah.
well, I got this idea and it's like this. And so then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to down the road and just, I'm going to get for investors and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. And so I need to be a C corporation now. I'm like, you don't even know what the hell you're selling to who. But you need to be a C corporation. Oh, yeah. And
Okay.
another advisor said that's true because I'm going to get investors someday. I'm like, do you know the words corporate stock book? Distribution of equity. I think we need to be a sole prop till you even know what the hell you're doing. And then
Yeah.
let's look at an LLC. So what I'm seeing is, and I never thought of it, Adam, but the entrepreneurs today are behaving like we were socially conditioned to do back then. Do you have any connection in what I said, or is it just all blah, 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 blah?
I 1,000% understand what you say.
Okay.
You are brilliant, and I always admire everything you say. So what I see it slightly differently, though it makes 1,000% success. That's sense what you're describing as you as connecting it to the social conditioning. But I think it's more forgivable and natural than that, in the sense
Okay.
that um, when someone, or so many, not everyone, like people like come out of business school, maybe not so much. Although
Right.
some do the same thing.
Yep.
But when someone who is an non-specialized human, as we all are in our youth, right? Thank God. right? From
Yeah.
0 to 18. I mean, it starts to specialize a little bit like, oh, I'm this kind of kid or that kind of kid. But we all are nothing but possibility, right? And no matter what we specialize in, when we come out into adulthood, right? Or even after we're in adulthood and we've been in a job and then we decide we're going into business, right? It goes back to what a little bit I think of where I was with the agency issue. So they think to themselves, well, I have this idea, but an idea obviously is very furry and fuzzy and doesn't have a task list, especially if you've never started a business, right? You're like, well, I want to, build, a SaaS company that does this thing, or I want to create a robot dragonfly that, pollinates banana trees. I have no idea what I'm talking about, right? But like, you have some reason that you think it's good, but that's such a giant, like, late stage picture, like the robot dragonfly pollinating banana trees. Obviously, you can't start anywhere with that. Like, what even do you start with? So you're like, well, I guess maybe, what would it be called? Maybe it would be a company called like Dragonana, right? That'd be cool. So wait, where do I better save that, right? Because it's the only thing you can think of to start. You don't know how to start. But there's businesses. Oh, businesses. I better start a corporation or a LLC. I better start something, right? So I can do that. I just look on the website and then I put my name and I pay them money and then I have the thing. And it even has Dragonana Inc. or Dragonana LLP or LLC or whatever it is, right? And so, or even if it's none of those things, then I get a DBA, right? I'm just Adam, but I'm DBA Dragonana. So I get so many, you've seen the same thing. All these entrepreneurs, they're like, now I have business cards.
And they have nothing. I call the LLCs the little Gucci bag. Look at my little Gucci bag. I got 5 of them.
That's right. They don't get it. And that's 1,000% forgivable. I've said 1,000% like 9 times. But like, it's totally forgivable because they're looking for the thing they can do that's researchable and knowable and that they can accomplish. They're like, I'm willing to do things. Yes. So I don't see it as like, a symptom of like a societal thing in that example, maybe, only because I think it's a very kind of, I think it's laudable. I think it's like, yes, good, you're doing shit. Now you need Lori.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I want to comment on that because then I want to get you keep going. Is that I agree. I think at the end of the day, and this is where I want you to keep going and pick up on this, Adam. I see it all the time. And I think the societal thing was more of us back then. But I think now,
there's that now too.
Yeah, social media tells them. But the second thing is it gives them a feeling of good, like they did something. But this is where I do see with our SBDC clients that doing something is in some ways replacing or in front of or the cart before the horse of actually figuring out what they're doing.
Of course.
And so I think, and this is where your expertise comes in. I have so many people, because I send them to you go through that route, but I have so many people that I literally just say this sentence: you haven't figured out what you're doing, what you're selling, and to whom and at what cost. You don't even know those basics. So how do we, to our audience, talk in, okay, you ready for this, Adam? You ready? Drum roll.
Ready.
In the same way that the legal Zoom is convincing them this is doing something, how can we give them some simple steps that they can do in their home tonight with a piece of paper? I'm exaggerating, I just am using an example.
No, you're not.
Gives them this doing something. Can you give them a doing something that gives them something that's tangible in their hand that answers that damn question, what are you doing? And so let's go there. Let's go there. And this is even for people who are in business, because I find people that have been in 3 years don't know this either. So this isn't like, I've already started, I don't have my ears open. No, you open your ears too. Okay, go Adam.
So it's a great question. The first phase of starting a business is ideation. It's what is the idea, and then ideating, like coming up with the exact idea. You can be like, the idea is a robot dragonfly that pollinates bananas, but like, you got to, is that the idea, or is that where I'm starting? Like, that's the first step. It's not file something. What's my idea? You have to ideate. And so in ideation, I like to bucket ideas into 2. Now, of course, you can do this a million ways, and this isn't true or false, but it's a helpful place to start. I call them inside out. Are you an inside out idea or are you an outside in idea? And they're both possible. Both kinds of them work, but one takes less money and less energy and less time and less mystery, and the other takes more. Both work. And so the one that works easier is outside in, and the one that's harder is inside out. And I'll explain what that means. Inside out, which is the harder one, is I'm going to just keep using robots because it's what I always do. So my idea is I want to build a robot that cleans brass, but also mows the lawn.
Oh,
This
okay.
would be amazing. I love this because I'm really interested in lawn mowing and I have so much brass in my house. I want to do both of those things with one robot. And so it's now January 3rd and here I go and I'm going to order some parts from China and I'm going to do these other things. I'm going to do sketches and I've got it all figured out. This is exciting. And so 7 months later, I've really honed the brass part, but now I'm going to get the other part going. And then 3 months after that, I've got both. Okay, great. I did it. I have my robot that cleans brass and mows the lawn. Who wants it? And I don't know. I think it sounds good. So what do? I just have this robot. Well, there might be 38 people in Shanghai and 12 in Accra and like 8, in Oslo and 2 in Kansas City who want exactly that. But how the hell are you going to find them? You have to advertise on every social platform in China and Europe and the US and Africa, and it'll cost you tens of thousands of dollars. You're going to be rewriting things in different languages, all that. Months later, you found them all, but you spent $38,000 per customer to get them. Right? So you could get them, and maybe each of them would pay $40,000 for the robot, and maybe that's a business. But you can see why that's difficult.
Yeah.
That's an inside. I made the robot inside, and I took it outside. Inside out business. Outside in is I'm a dental hygienist. And every day I walk into the same room and I sit down and I put on my thing and a stream of patients comes in, one after the other. And every single one of them, when I go with that buzzing, they wince and they get scared or they're like, I don't want that one. Or when's the last time you had a cleaning? Oh, 2 years ago. Why? Oh, I just hate it. Huh. Why do you hate it? Oh, that thing's just awful. Huh. I'm going to make Atom Clean. Atom Clean is a thingamajiggy that cleans your teeth that has no vibration and just plays pleasant sleeping sounds. Oh, and everybody hates mint. So this is only going to have delicious tropical fruit flavors. Atom Clean. Now I go and I think about Atom Clean. And while I'm doing it, I say, hey, dentist that I work for, because I'm a hygienist, hey, do you think that this problem is worth solving? That there's all these people, everybody's complaining. Maybe they'd have more appointments. Maybe they'd come every 4 months instead of every 6 months. Maybe we could give this to other people. And the dentist would be like, yeah, that'd be amazing. It's definitely a problem. So I know now and I know because they're all coming in. I know the problem because I see it. I confirm it with the guy who would buy it, which is the dentist, and I go and I make it. Then I go to him, and I happen to know other dental hygienists because I went to dental hygiene school, right? I'm a hygienist. So I call them, and I know. So anyway, so I finish my Atom Clean, and then what do? Unlike the robot that cleans the brass and the thing, as soon as it's done, and even during the building of it, I might bring it over and say, do you think this is the right color or the right weight, or is it too round, or is it too triangle? And suddenly I have an absolute connected pipeline to the market. And so my outside in idea, as soon as it's done and imperfect, I have people testing it, feeding back, buying it, right? You can see how the difference between an inside out and an outside in is stark. And obviously outside in businesses are going to succeed more often than an inside out business. So step one for tonight is you have an idea. Well, oh, great. Are you inside out or outside in? Well, that's okay. Either one work. There are tons of ideas that do start with, I made it, now let's find it. You can have a very strong hypothesis, but you might not realize whether it's strong. That's the thing. So just know which is which that you are. Are you inside out, that you're coming up with something that you think people might like? Or are you outside in, where you see a problem, a persistent complaint, and you know exactly who has it?
Yeah.
then all that means is you have to be prepared that if you're inside out, your next job, like after tonight, if you're like, oh, I think I'm inside out, your next job is talk to people. It's not get a LLC. It's not even
It's tough.
build. It's not even build the thing. It's like go and find people whose problem you believe this thing solves and talk to them. And then I'll give you one little more bit of advice on that. When you talk to people, market research, when you're doing market research / market validation, all of us have done it wrong. 100% of entrepreneurs who do market research do it wrong the first time, if nobody tells them. What we all do is we take our idea and our map or our plan or our deck or our robot or whatever it is, and we go to group of 3 friends who are in what we
I
think
was
is
knew you were going to say
target.
friends, family, and fools, as we
That's
call them in
okay.
banking.
No, that's
Yep.
okay. It's okay. But what we all do is we go to the friends or the family, people who are in that demographic that we know, they're friends. Okay, fine. And we say, hey, good to see you. Hey, how the kids? Good, good, good. Hey, look, can I show you a thing I'm working on? And can you tell me whether it's good or not? And they're like, of course. And then you show them, and what do they say? Yeah, it's great, Adam. That's so great. And then I'm like, oh, well, just to be real sure, if I brought it to you, would you buy it? Oh, totally. That would be awesome. That'd be amazing. Right? So that's useless
It
information.
totally is. It totally is. It totally
So
is.
what you
Yeah.
do instead, real quick, what you do instead is you ask about the problem. You don't tell about what you're doing.
Ah,
And you say, hey, I know you guys are all dental hygienists because we all went to dental hygiene school. Good to see you. Hey, are you seeing any issue with patients who come in and need to get their teeth cleaned?
don't even suggest. Just ask point blank.
And
Yes,
they're
I
like,
love
oh,
it.
people hate it. Oh, really? Why? Oh my God, they hate the drill. They hate the drill. Why are we cleaning people with a drill? I'm like, yeah, why? What are you finding? Oh, yeah, people avoid it. Really? Why? Oh, they think it hurts. Okay, so now you collect information about pain because what you're doing is solving pain for a group of people. Last thing you ask is if you could have a magic wand, if you wave a magic wand, how would you want to change that experience for them? Well, I mean, it would be great if it didn't hurt. It would be great and they all hate mint. I can't believe they don't make something in a different flavor. And then you might hear something totally that you didn't expect. I don't know what. I'm not creative enough to think, but like some other thing. But you're just writing down the pain and the aspiration, pain and the aspiration. And then you check, am I solving that exactly? Yeah, great. Okay.
I love that. I love that. That backwards way of looking at, which is actually forward, but you're right.
Right.
Everybody shows the solution they created and then gets people to agree they have the problem, which they do because they're looking at the solution and all that. But when you just are generically asking them about an experience and them seeing this and what they perceive, that changes the dynamic and it makes everyone you speak to, whether it's even your mother, give you some good insight because they're no longer claiming it because they just love you. They're
Right.
actually thinking about it. And what's interesting is I love the term, I wrote it down, that invitation to next. That's what you're really talking about here, the difference between the in and out, the invitation to next. Then what happens when you find this out? And that's an invitation to your next move based on what you're learning. And, just as there was this old study, I can't even remember it to quote it properly, but they went out and they asked people, if you had this, would you pay $10 or $1 or whatever, type thing. And then they actually had it and nobody would pay the $10 or
No.
$1 that said they
Right.
would. And people say that all the time. Well, everybody said they'll pay. No, it doesn't matter because
Doesn't it?
people, talk is cheap, and it was cheap 20 years ago. It was cheap 200 years ago, and it's going to be cheap 200 years from now. It has always been cheap. I always tell people, you put your best intentions on a table, and I'll one up you every time.
Right.
It's so true on that. With our time left, I got this thing that's in my, that old expression, in your crawl. My grandmother used to say that. I've got something that's been
Crawl.
in my craw. That's it. Been in my craw. I knew there was like an expression that I've got something that's been kind of, one of those things, my brain thinking about it. And last week in my Lori's Corner, in my rant and rave, I started ranting on it, right? And we're going to rant next week on it, right? This is what I'm noticing, Adam. And once again, you're so good at picking up what I'm trying to say. And this is just not something that I'm seeing. I think it warrants a discussion. And of course, it has to go into profitability because that's my thing, right? Profitability,
Yeah,
business
should be
outcome.
everybody's thing. Oh my
It
God.
should be, right? So, I start looking at the financials with people and they say, I have low overhead. Now, from a financial accounting, following strict financial accounting rules, absolutely correct. But from a managerial accounting, where you're not following financial, what's considered overhead and what's considered
Yeah.
this. So I'm going down the managerial accounting. And I like to explain it this way, and this is what I said last week, and this is a way to put it in context. If you go back into our early days when we were in our 20s, and you go around to what was not called entrepreneurs, they were called mom and pops back then. That's all they were, is mom and pops. We didn't even call them small businesses. I think we called them mom and pops, right?
Yeah.
So you went up to a mom and pop, and we're taking a little spaceship back in time, right? And we're our age now, but we're back in the mom and pop. And we tell the mom and pop owner, and we go, we're starting a company. What do? It could be your robots, right? And you say, well, how are you doing that? Oh, I got a manufacturing company that I am paying to manufacture it. Okay, how are you doing? Oh, I got a sales team that I'm paying, and they're going to actually warehouse and distribute it as well. Okay, so you're manufacturing and you're paying somebody else to do it. You got a distribution channel you're paying to do it. And they would look at you with a little bit of confusion, and I'm making it up, but I believe there's some truth in my made up story. They'd probably look at you and say, "What the hell are you doing, and how are you making any money?" Because it is the manufacturing internally, it is the distribution internal, it is those things that is what the owner gets paid for. And I want to build on this. So now today's owner that says, I have no overhead, so I'm going to make 100,000 working out of my apartment on my bar stool and my kitchen table. Well, when I explain to them, your overhead is actually 99% of your company or 103%. And it's because you're manufacturing everything externally. Now, Adam, I'm not saying you should manufacture internally. I'm not trying to say that. But what I'm saying, you have to understand the financial equation. When you are having everything outsourced, technically, there's no profit left over. And my rant for next week, which I saved because I wanted to get into the IRS stuff, is then I started digging deep into, if you want to be a profitable company today, be a company that supports the small businesses, because these outsourced facilities, I ran into IRS data because I got all that access, and I have looked at their profit margins, their growth. So I think it's not the little, I'm going to work at my kitchen table and here is my LLC through LegalZoom. They're on credit card debt, because remember, I'm seeing the numbers, the tax returns, I'm seeing the fatal story, right? It is the supporters of all these people whose financials look good. All I'm saying in my bottom line is, I think there needs to be an awareness of the financial components of your business model, because I think on social media, they're led to believe, once again, no failure, they're led to believe they're going to be doing nothing, working at home by themselves and making 100,000. Now, if you're a consultant selling your own time, absolutely. The solopreneur is the one I'm seeing that's selling their own skill, whether it's a massage therapist or whatever. They're making money. But there's this huge in between that I see on a daily basis through the SBDC that's banking up on the credit card, thinking they're investing in their company, but they're really using it to pay for what the company's not making. You only got 6 minutes. You want to answer something brilliant about that?
Well, no, I mean, as always, I love that you have the brass tacks, like old. I don't want to call it old fashioned. I mean that in the best way, because I share it totally. Is that like profitability is the whole goal here, folks, right? Like, so profitability, just forget about like accounting this way or free cash flow. It's like, just make, it's like, I don't remember Father Guido Sarducci, like he was a comedian in the 70s. He said the 5-minute university. He's like, business school. You buy something and you sell it for more, right? It's like, that's business school, right? So the idea is, you have, at the end of the day, inflows must be greater than outflows.
And what
right?
I say, and everybody knows, somebody put it in chat. What do I say? Can you afford to buy a quart of milk? So that's my statement. Right. I started that at teaching in Pepperdine. Well, yeah, that's great. Can you afford to buy a quart of milk?
Right. So there's a few things that were in what you said that I will sort of tease out, which are, I think, because you were kind of talking about the picks and shovels thing, right? That like, it's better to be Levi's or the guy who makes shovels than the gold miner, right? The gold miners all came out and went bankrupt, and Levi's is still a billion-dollar,
Oh, I'm
multi-billion dollar
with you on
company to
this
this day,
analogy.
right?
Okay, I got you.
They
I
call it
caught
picks
up.
and shovels. And that's
Yeah.
sort of like conventional wisdom about business, is that the unglamorous supplier of people with the dream always makes money. People with the dream mostly don't. Now, however,
Yeah.
I'm in favor of people with the dream. So the problem is that the dream isn't the thing that makes you the money. The dream is the picture of success of doing something in a way that can make you money. Now, you have to have calculated that there's a risk of losing money, and that's okay if you're comfortable with it. But there are conditions in today's gold rush, let's call it, that are, let's use your example of the outsourced distributor, the outsourced whatever, everything outsourced. Now there is a condition where that's the way you make $1 million, and that condition in this case specifically would be if you have amassed a massive social media following for free, just being you, doing whatever you do, you can create tons of profit by levering your influence with a big group of people to convert them into sales that have low margin because you're sharing those sales with the distributor and the manufacturer, all that stuff. But if you have 10 million followers or, on Instagram, and you sell, you pitch something that's outsourced and drop shipped to them, and 10,000 of them buy it a month. Well, okay, you sell it for $10. If you get $10 off the top, let's say, or you 5, whatever, you're a wealthy person, right? And that's just sitting at your tip. But most people are like, well, they don't have that following, and they think, oh wait, what makes them rich is having a product that you outsource and then put on Instagram. No, you have to have Instagram, then you make a product to leverage, which some people say, which I don't like, but leverage your following. Okay, that's one example. And there are others where that strategy can yield you tons of money, but you have to understand that that strategy is a tactic for extracting value from the audience that you've built some other way. So, and there's lots of other examples like that where you just have to understand where is the value coming from. And it's not usually the product, and it's not usually the distribution, and it's not usually the manufacturing. It's almost always the connection with a giant customer base.
As always, I want to have you back on it. And I think this is such an important discussion. I want to pick it up on that one. I got 3 comments, and this last one comes back to you. First of all, and Sadie, if you get a chance, put this into the chat. I love your invitation to next. I think that's such a beautiful expression. I wrote that down. And of course, I love this one. The dream isn't the thing that makes you money. I think that is just such a sound anchor, which this conversation allowed me to put one of my most favorite words in: discernment. I think today we don't have enough discernment. And what you're showing is that, yes, this business model works here, but it needs this criteria. And I think too much today, they get exposed to something and then they go right down the pathway without the discernment to say there's certain different little elements of each thing that makes it work or not work. So with that, Adam, I got to pass to you to the last comments for today. But I just want to say, I just absolutely love having you on. I feel like we get into discussions, as I do with some of my other guests that come on along, that are so deep that we bring up things that are just thought-provoking for everybody to walk away, and it festers in their mind into something that can benefit them later in the day. So thank you for always following me down these thought processes.
I love fostering beneficial festering.
It's hilarious.
That's great.
Please do, before we leave, we're going to go a minute late. I don't care. You got to tell people you got an album coming out. I want you to anything that Sadie can do to promote your album. He's a musician.
So I don't have my
link.
link.
Okay, if you got it, put it in the chat. If not,
we'll
put it in
it's called Unclad, which is an inside joke with the guys I do with, because they always call me Uncle Adam, which I hate because I think I'm 30 and they're 30. And they're like, Uncle Adam, when we do it? I'm like, okay, I won't be Uncle Adam, but I will be Unclad. So that's my artist name. So on on Spotify that there's like 3 or 4 songs there now, but we're doing 6 more soon. I can't say when, maybe next month if I'm lucky, or in 2 months. And yeah, I have like two monthly listeners, which is like me and me on a different account probably. So anybody who listens, you'll meaningfully increase my monthly listenership.
Okay, everybody, somebody go listen to Adam so he can like build his social network
Yeah,
out.
and then I can do this outsourced distribution idea.
Exactly, he needs that. So we had at least, we still have 36 people on. 36 people go and listen to Adam. There you
Yeah,
go.
it'll be record breaking.
So, yeah, write into chat. Go ahead, Adam. You slide over to chat if you can, or tell Sadie to put in any information we can, and we'll also bring it up next week. So while you're doing that in chat, Sadie, this has been fun, huh?
I mean, doing a little multitasking over here because
Oh
I'm
my
like, I
God.
heard he's on Spotify. I'm like, so if you just do a search for,
Hold on.
Unclad there, right? I mean, we
I
can
think I
get
got it.
your gigs up there, Adam.
All my gigs, which I don't do, but I'll have to
But this
start.
is how we're gonna do leveraging, Adam. We're
That's
gonna
right.
have you be an advisor. You're gonna be a
That's
rock star, getting
that's
money from Spotify. Lori, he's gonna have to hire you on staff permanently.
I know. Is your song Glass Half Full?
okay. Well, so the glass half full one is an exception because yes, that's me, but I only co-wrote that in a room. I didn't sing it, and I'm partly responsible. The other 3 are all me. That's the shot. I put the Spotify link up there. It's
Oh, you know what? Let me share that. Let me share that for you.
Yeah, there we go. We gotta get you your favorite. Oh, there you go, guys. Grab that link.
there it is. All right.
Okay, so that's the perfect way for me to end because this is what I'm going to say right now, which I always say. First of all, Adam, thank you so much for being on the show. Definitely have to have you back. So I am going to go. Adam's going. Sadie stays behind so you can get all the links. You can get in touch with Adam. You can get in touch with me. So she will keep it completely open. But for right now, I got to say goodbye. Thank you to my frequent flyers for being here every week. Love you guys. And if you were new to the show, it's fun. It's fostering. It's everything. So tune in next week for Small Biz Talk with your host, Lori Williams. Bye, Adam. Bye, Sadie. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
All righty, guys. Well, you know the drill. And if you're a first-time flyer over here, we got a survey going on. The chat's going to be open because I know that you guys want to get on that Spotify list. You want to get in contact with Adam. So let me just drop down info again because as always, the chat window gets active towards the end of the session. So I just want to make sure that everyone has. We got Adam's info over here. Let's get up his Spotify so you can follow him. If you want to reach out to Lori, because, why wouldn't you want to reach out to Lori? So let me just get that going for you. Maybe you yourself want to be a guest. You have an idea like, hey, my local coffee shop, my recent, like I said, I went to a new Pilates studio and that person is now becoming part of the SBDC family. So I said, we got to share the love, folks. We got to share all the great resources that we have going on. If you can hear my dog going, apologies. He's got to guard me from the mail carrier. You know how it is. It's a serious job. If you are not yet a client of the SBDC, here is info for the SBDC. It is your tax dollars at work. So please join us. As you can see, everyone is top of their game. Like that's always the thing. People say like, no cost. Oh, it must be. No. Everyone is business subject matter experts. Okay. So if for some reason Lori cannot help you out, do not worry. Yes, I know we love Lori, but I'm saying that we have a whole network. That's what I'm trying to say over here. We have a whole entire network covering the Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties. We do meetings virtually. Maybe you want to go to the place. Like I said, why not? And just because you're at one center does not mean that you're locked into that in the sense of like, that's your advisor. No. It's a network. So for some reason you need to connect with somebody in cybersecurity. I also run those webinars. So that expert comes out of EDC, but we can connect you because we are all part of the larger umbrella. So that's why we say at the Lead Center, Lead Network, Los Angeles Network, we can connect you with all the advisors within this large county that we call, or area that we call Los Angeles. Anyways, as you can tell, I do also have the gift of gab. I think I was just inspired by our guest to keep it going. So, all right. So I'm going to put in the last of the links in case you want to see some of our previous shows, because I know you do. Let me know if you need anything. What is Adam's last name? You know what? I should know that off the top of my head, but I'm gonna have to do a little. Oh, Chapnick. It is Adam Chapnick, Chapnick. So Chap and then Nick, like Saint Nick. Let me type that in the chat for you as well. Adam Chapnick. Okay. Oh, let me actually fix that because it's not. I forgot. Chap Nick. There we go. You want to make sure, right? And he is also an advisor. So as you can tell, our advisors are multifaceted individuals. So when they say that they can, help guide, advise, everyone has a story. Most of our small business advisors are small business owners, so they know a lot of what you're going through. All right, so I'm going to leave the survey going for you folks. I'm going to leave the chat open for you, but I'm going to put myself on mute because I know you don't want me talking. So go ahead, click away, sign up, contact us, let me know if you need anything, okay?